A week ago, the U.S. seized 2 Russian-flagged tankers operating within the Shadow Fleet. While the details on the second tanker are still unconfirmed, we know for a fact what happened to the first one. The Bella 1 sailed into the Caribbean Sea on December 20th. The U.S. Coast Guard sought to board it, but the tanker made a U-turn and sailed off into the Atlantic on December 30th. During the pursuit on the high seas, the tanker reflagged from Guyana to Russia on December 31st. Russian officials requested that the U.S. quit chasing the vessel as it had also changed its name to the Marinera. Several Russian warships and a sub were dispatched to escort the tanker. However, on January 7th, as the Russian tanker was sailing between Iceland and the UK, it was boarded by U.S. troops. Both the vessel and its crew were seized, with the Russian warships looking on yet refusing to intervene. Both tankers are said to have been involved in the breach of the Venezuela blockade sanctioned by the US, and officials claim both were seized. The crews, which include Russian nationals, will face felony charges in the United States. This is a mind-boggling story. Someone's ambition sent them on a crusade to obliterate international law, only to land Russia in a pot of unparalleled national embarrassment. Now, here's what happened. The Russian crude oil tankers were sanctioned. They could no longer be insured under any certified insurance plans and were excluded from legal international trade. What was Putin's response? It was like, I couldn't care less about your laws, norms, and rules. We'll just purchase some aging tankers, of which there's a lot, have them somehow insured, flag them with one of the countries whose shipping register follows prehistoric regulations, and start transporting oil all we want. Screw you. Sure, it's illegal, but so what? What can you do about it? Will you be sanctioning every single rusty jalopy? Before you can even agree on and impose the new sanctions, we'll double our fleet of those. Screw you again. Essentially, there's no legal avenue to affect a government that's acting illegally. You can amend the existing laws and introduce a dozen more sanctions packages, but it'll be to no avail. Trying to legally counter a shadow fleet of tankers is like passing trade regulations for drug smugglers. They're criminals. They won't abide by any consumer protection laws, but even the law dodgers have to play by some rules. If you don't like to observe the laws of the civilized world, you'll have to abide by the crime world's rulebook. Drug traffickers aren't worried about official safety inspections. They flout drug storage regulations, and they can't be bothered by VAT hikes or the abolition of tax waivers. But if they blow the revenue share agreements and try to mess with their overlords, they'll end up sanctioned, too. Those won't be monetary penalties or extra tax payments. No, their skulls will just be crushed. Law-abiding individuals play by the rules, but so does the world of crime. You can't live in a society without playing by its rules. That's a dumb and unfeasible aspiration. It's just that the rules may vary. The Russian leaders thought they'd struck gold as they began trading crude oil illegally. They thought they'd get away with it. Okay, but what if the U.S. turns to piracy? What will you do about it? Will you sue them? Like, help. Our illegal trade is being targeted by the gangsters. You turn to smuggling stuff. They turn to piracy. In the end, big-time gangsters will rob small-time gangsters of their possessions. That's the way the cookie crumbles on the wrong side of the tracks. Someone didn't like the world of paperwork, regulations, and conventions that were to be observed. But remember, there's a foreign state, and you can't just cross into it and grab whatever you want just because this neighboring state seems to be weaker than yours. You can't just steal foreign business assets registered in your country and give them to Carterov for free. There's intellectual property and copyright. You can't just engage in film piracy and screen the bootlegs in your movie theaters. You can't use drones to force the Warsaw airport to shut down. You can't stage a chemical attack in a British city, even if you're itching to kill a vile turncoat. You can't frame your political rival on trumped-up charges, ship them to a supermax in the far north, and have them killed there. Following our episodes on Maduro, someone began misportraying us as Trump supporters and fans of the might makes right principle. That's not true. We are acutely aware that stunts like these are bringing our world closer to a global war. We don't like it at all. I wish people's memory lasted longer than a short time span of just a couple of generations. Most of the older guys who experienced what it felt like when the world descended into disobedience, the World War II vets, have passed away, but we are already witnessing a new round of a global spat over spheres of influence and who's the deadliest force in town. A lot of folks are again craving to reshuffle the world order. It pains us to assume that humanity needs to lose 200 million lives amid great carnage once a century to reassess the importance of rules, conventions, international treaties, human rights, and whatnot. It pains us to assume that the raised towns and cities in the pictures aren't sobering enough and that everybody wants to see it for themselves. It pains us to assume that endless cemeteries age like an older model of an iPhone and that us humans need to upgrade that often. But it looks like that's what it is. Make no mistake about it. Both the Russian and the American aging miscreant are roaming the world, clutching a can of gas and a lighter. Unless they're stopped, they'll burn this planet to the ground. That's indisputable. When a stronger miscreant starts banging up his weaker counterparts, whether Maduro or Putin, there will be no positive outcome for the world. In fact, that's what a global war looks like. Different thugs start contesting the sphere of influence, only to find out that there's a significant overlap, and that realization leads to a large-scale massacre. If our commentary sounds like we are mocking someone, that's just a circumstantial thing. It's an interesting sight when someone has taken great pains to erode an enduring world order, only to be baffled by the fact that the ceiling is about to collapse on their misguided heads. It just can't be the case that there are smuggler states, but no pirate states. It's the law of nature. Where there are shadow traders, there will be those who will be plundering them. Just think about it. A Russian-flagged oil tanker carrying Russian oil and a Russian crew wasn't seized by Somali pirates but by the U.S. military. That's exactly what happened. They nabbed 2 tankers in one day. And that's because Vladimir Putin developed a bad itch. He just couldn't carry on selling oil the way he used to or keep up a good relationship with his closest neighbors. He was bored by raking in a ceaseless flow of cash and playing by the rules that contributed to his wealth and personal security. He sought action. His wish was granted. The Americans seized his tankers. Any ideas? What are you supposed to do next? Given the eventful first week of 2026, how about making a public appearance and offering a statement? Or perhaps chopping off a funny joke? What'll be your asymmetric response? What happened was so painfully self-evident. The crew painted a Russian flag, thinking it'd protect them. But the Americans didn't blink. Both the tanker and its flag were seized. The Russian crew was slapped with charges. Will you retaliate by seizing a U.S. ship? This amounts to an unforgivable insult. Putin is wiping out entire cities for much smaller transgressions. But everybody knows he won't do anything. He doesn't have the guts to encroach on an American ship. Apparently, his only option is to voice deep concern the way the weak, worthless Europeans. Let's say it was a European leader, say, Friedrich Merz. He's a textbook boring politician impeded by a million rules and compromises and a grand master of political cliches. But what would have happened if the Americans had seized a German-flagged tanker along with its German crew? Could you picture Merz dodging a public statement? Would he ignore an act of full-blown national embarrassment? As recently as May 2025, Putin was beaming with delight as he kept the media circus off the edges of their seats and the whole world on tenterhooks. Now he's being dragged through the mud. They go, "We don't give a damn about your flag. You can't protect anyone." He's silent. The Ukraine war and the calamities gone through over the past 4 years were meant to build a world where no fly could elicit as much as a fart without Putin's permission. A world run by him as the most unhinged fellow. But it turns out, he's not the only one capable of playing this game. When the gameplay is joined by the world's #1 thug, his Russian counterpart is getting owned. You get an odd feeling recalling that last year marked Putin's unbridled triumph. The biggest news stories revolved around Putin being cajoled by the rest of the world to stop misbehaving. Everyone was cozying up to him. But he went, "Nah, I'm not stopping the war. Why would I? I'm winning after all." But now that the world's most powerful country has gone equally bonkers, Putin is rediscovering his former status as a small-time Eastern European dictator with paltry ambitions like capturing Kupiansk. But the most important part of it all isn't that Putin is tight-lipped on the seizure of the tankers carrying Russia's biggest export commodity. The most important part is that nobody is asking him, where's the world at? A few months ago, was wondering what was on Putin's mind, making sure not to poke him, and thinking of ways to stroke his immense ego? It turns out, Putin only was the world champion in geopolitics because he was the sole entrant. But no sooner had Trump entered the fray than he seized a pair of Putin's tankers. So, Putin had meeting Trump all over the world and making him look like a consummate pillock time and again. Like, the Kremlin strongman intel ops would show the U.S. wheeler dealer his place. Granted, Trump may not be the world's biggest intellectual, but is aggressive, and the U.S. is a really powerful country. Once the U.S. joins the universe's biggest jerk contest, Putin is instantly relegated to an amateur division. Now, is it a compelling watch? It absolutely is. Still, do we realize that we are witnessing the downfall of the final bulwark of normalcy? These playoffs contested by smugglers, pirates, abductors, and war criminals will result in major trouble. It sure looks like it. The erosion of the norms that have ensured 80 years of peace, safety, and prosperity is a bad thing that'll affect everyone. Our only hope is that reclaiming the norms will cost us less than it did in the 20th century. But there's some poetic justice about the fact that the first to be banged on the head are the ones who are making sure to erode these norms. They said, I took Crimea, so what? I started the war, deal with it. The Americans will now consider your oil carried by your tankers to be their own. You'll no longer be able to hire any crew because no crew member in their right mind would risk ending up in U.S. police custody. Even small sketchy firms will refuse to insure the tankers that are being targeted by both the Ukrainian drones and the U.S. fleet. What will you do about it? What response did you have to the U.S. troops boarding your tanker as the Russian warships looked on idly? Will you double down on your vow to capture the Donetsk region in front of Trump? Trump won't find the Donetsk region on the map, but he knows full well that a bunch of jalopies sailing in the Atlantic are carrying billions of dollars worth of commodities. They're violating international law. It can be seized and sold. Seize and sell he will. He'll also drop a broad hint to Ukraine. Sink them all. I don't mind it. How will you be supposed to readjust the federal budget based on Urals crude trading at $59 per barrel, seeing as it's no longer Russian oil? It's everyone's. It's up for grabs. Days ago, we said that the end of a year and the start of a new one don't end things or usher in anything new. But we were wrong. See you tomorrow.